Have you ever been so impacted by something that it leaves no doubt as to what helped shape you? Welcome to The Blind Impact, a podcast where we talk about and uncover those moments. Some funny, some sad, but it's not always tragic. I hope you'll stay for a while. Hi, Mr. Larry. Are you on?
I am. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. How are you?
Life is great.
Life is great. It is. It's such a nice day here. Hopefully, it's nice. Nice where you are also. Oh, Mr. Larry, what can you give us a little bit of information about who you are without telling your story? A little bit of background about yourself?
Okay. Uh, my name is Larry Ford, born and raised in Quincy, Florida. I am a happy retiree,
Nice.
22 and a half years in the military and 13 years with the airlines. So I retired at 58.
Oh, that's a dream. That's a that's a dream. What branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Do you have any exciting military stories you want to talk about?
About the only, I've had very many, I've made 14 moves.
Oh.
About the only time of life conflict was getting shot up in El Salvador. We were sent
Oh.
out of Fort Bragg, but yeah, that was
Oh.
it.
Okay. You say it so casually, like it wasn't that big of a deal, but thank God you made it out of that.
Yes, yes.
My
So,
goodness. Wow. Okay, what story are you talking about today, Mr. Larry?
um, what did you?
I think we
What
should
did
talk
you?
about I think you should talk about your experience as a pilot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, my experience as a pilot. Uh, well, I became an Army aviator
Oh.
after let's just start with the military career and then I'll lead up to how I became a pilot.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so I first went in the military. Out of high school, I started out, I wanted to be in law enforcement. So I started out as a military policeman
Okay.
and I wanted to become a Florida State Trooper.
Mm.
So in order to do that, you had to have 2 years of military experience or you had to have a college degree. So coming out of high school, obviously, I didn't have either one.
Mm-hmm.
So when I enlisted in the military, I became a military policeman. And then I did the traffic accident investigation thing. Later, I became a dog handler. So it didn't take long for me to realize that being from Florida, walking a dog at night in the snow in Germany was not my idea of fun.
Oh. Oh, so that's where you were, Germany?
Yes,
Oh. Oh wow, okay.
I have. I lived a total of 7.5 years in Germany throughout
Wow.
my 14 military moves.
Okay.
So the military policemen, they work 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
So when it came time to reenlist, my reenlistment NCO, uh, who thought very highly of me, he wanted me to become a warrant officer.
Okay.
But I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have any black pilots to talk to about going to flight school.
Okay.
However, so I went up to Permersons where the helicopters were stationed at, and I talked to some of the air traffic controllers. And I liked their shift, their work schedule was much better. They worked 8 hours a day. They it was mandatory that they got a 15-minute break every hour. They worked in air conditioned building. I'm going like, oh, this is a job for me right here. So I when I reenlisted to become an air traffic controller.
Okay.
I was a radar controller. and I
Mm,
did that for about 4 years. In the
okay.
meantime, uh, of the other people that were in the unit with me, I noticed a lot of them going to flight school, and I was like, well, I'm smarter than this guy.
Hmm.
So eventually, I put in the application to go to flight school. And in 1981, I started flight school. I graduated in November of 1981.
Okay.
Uh, 2 years later, there are certain things that are just, uh, you just seem like you're natural for.
Sure.
And flying was one of those things for me. The challenges. Later, I became a uh, instructor pilot myself. After being out of flight school, a little over 2 years, I went back to become a flight instructor, and then I became an instrument flight examiner. So, for the military and even for the civilians,
Hmm.
you have your instructor pilots, and then you have your instrument instructor pilots. So, you have three tracks that you will go into. You either go into standardization, which is your instructor pilot, or you go into maintenance test pilot, which is your maintenance track, or
Hmm.
you will go into safety. So I chose the standardization because you flew more as a standard guy versus maintenance guy. You run up, you shut down, you fix it, So they didn't fly that much. And the safety guys didn't fly that much either. A lot of paperwork. And so I chose the standardization route.
Okay.
Uh, some exciting assignments. My first assignment for well, the Army is the largest branch of rotary wing aircraft. So they train at Fort Rucker, Alabama.
Okay.
They train the Army and the Air Force pilots.
Oh.
The Navy and the Marines train out of Pensacola.
Okay.
But when it comes to flying helicopters, that is the Army's uh, number one source of transportation.
Wow.
And obviously, because we are the largest branch of service,
Yes, sir.
and on the combat field, we move more troops than anyone else.
Oh. Now you said rotary wings.
Yes,
Okay.
helicopters.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
when you talk aviation, you have rotary wing, which are helicopters,
Okay.
and then you have fixed wings, which are airplanes
Okay.
and
Thank you.
jets.
Okay.
So I was a helicopter only uh, pilot.
Okay.
And my reason for that is because when everyone goes to flight school, the big dream is to join the airlines and fly for a living. And it sounds great until you actually get in that environment and you actually understand what the schedule is like.
Mhm.
But flying is one of those jobs where they say fly, find something you love and never work a day in your life.
Yes.
For me, that was it.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
that was it. So I never flew fixed wing. I kept putting in for it.
Okay.
However, because of my going to different things, and once I became an instrument flight examiner, they was too short in the field that I was in, so they would not allow me to move over to the fixed wing side.
Okay.
And it stayed that way until I retired. So everyone say you will know when. Well, after 22 and a half years and 14 moves, uh, I decided that it was enough. And if you're going to work after you leave the service, then, we kind of discriminate when you go into the workplace after the age of 50 unless you have a certain skill set.
Wow.
So I
Yes.
knew that I was going to have to work after the military because I had kids,
Hmm.
and that military retirement was not going to be enough for us to continue to live the lifestyle that we were accustomed to living.
Okay.
So
Wow. See, and I think, and not to interrupt your story, but I find that there's something so problematic about the discrimination you just mentioned after having served in the military, right? And I don't know if you mean that like racial discrimination or if it's just age discrimination or whatever the case, but either one of the two is unacceptable to me.
absolutely, it's not a racial discrimination thing. The reality of it is the job market, because uh, when I went to business school
Hmm.
and was going through the HR thing, they always look at your age because of the longevity that you have on the job.
Sure.
Now, in one sense, you'll look at it as people get older, they have health issues, and if I take a younger guy, I can hire a younger guy at a lower salary
Hmm.
and kind of raise him up through the ranks. Well, that was the old system, because the newer system with the millennials don't care about retirement. They care about their time. They want their time off. They're not subject to stay in one area. They will move, whereas the older workers, uh, they're pretty much set.
Okay.
And if you look at the HR today, a lot of the older workers are really more reliable. They'll come to work when they're supposed to. They don't mind working extra, but the younger generation want to enjoy life.
Yes. But I think that comes as a detriment to our society, without a doubt. Like we can see it everywhere you look, and
Absolutely.
and I look back over my life and I just remember how things were when I was younger and working, and a lot I can relate to what you're saying about staying longer, getting the job done, not making it didn't matter. Like you were there and you knew you needed to be reliable, and I think a lot of that does come from like home training, right? Home values and how the way you're raised. And I think a lot of what we're seeing today is a direct result of maybe just a lack in just parenting or caring, I guess.
It comes with in life. You have to have two things to be successful.
Hmm.
Larry Ford's opinion, and I tell it when I talk to young people. I tell them this all the time, and I tell my friends this. You have to have discipline, and you have to have work ethics.
Hmm.
The discipline is not just doing what your parents say do, but doing the right thing even when no one is looking. That
Absolutely.
makes you get up and be the work on time when you're supposed to be there, and not slacking. And the other thing is, uh, the life that we have right now is because of the choices that we've made.
Yes, sir.
So if you didn't make good choices, uh, your life is not going to be very good. And you compare yourself to, well, why does this person have a better life than I have?
Hmm.
Because they had to sacrifice some things. You were having a party, you went to the party, that they stayed and did their homework. Uh,
Right.
they took the extra courses
Right.
because they realized that if they sacrifice for the first quarter of their life, that when they get in the fourth quarter of their life, then they can enjoy it. And that's where I am. I heard a pastor say, "Well, it's a good thing that God didn't give me everything in the first quarter because I would have ran through it. But in the fourth quarter, you know, now I can enjoy uh, the fruits of my labor.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. And it sounds like it's very much deserved because coming out of being 18 and making the decision to go into the military, was it your very first thought to become a pilot?
Uh, no, it was not.
Okay.
Uh, that's one of the things about life. As you grow, you're, you start out at one thing, but you find yourself enjoying, want to do something else. And it's okay to change, but as long as you got that foundation under you, the work ethics,
Mhm.
regardless of what field you end up in. And a lot of people do that. They go to college, they get a degree in one field, and then they end up switching to another field. But
True.
what makes the difference? When the HR people look at you, they look at that 4-year degree because it showed that you were consistent and you completed what you started. Now, it may not be in the field that they were looking for, but still, that 4-year degree makes a huge difference. So, unless you're just going into a specific field, well, it's a computer security, something of that nature,
Mhm.
then it's about being able to complete and the skills that you get from going to school.
Sure. I couldn't agree any more with that. So you were at this point you've applied for the fixed wings aspect of being a pilot. How do we see that now? Like where are we at with this?
Well, in the military, so they would go before you would put all your credentials before a board.
Okay.
In a board, they would select 40 guys a year to fly fixed wing. Like I said, the Army didn't have that many. So if you were one of the chosen ones,
Mhm.
uh, you would get lucky. I have a very good friend of mine. We both were on the same track. He was a safety guy. I
Okay.
was, and we both were flight instructors, but he switched over to safety. And
Okay.
eventually, he got selected for fixed wing. And after retiring from the Army, he flew for the airlines.
Okay.
Uh, when I retired, uh, I did not have the flight time, and I had the opportunity to fly commercially,
Okay.
but life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So I became divorced, single parent, raising two sons, and I could not uh, afford to do the schedule for the airlines, regardless of the pilots or flight attendants. The job consists of being gone from home 4 or 5 days, 6 days at a time. Then you're back home for 3 days. So being that single parent, it was more meaningful for me to be there for my sons every day. So I took a job as an airline dispatcher.
Okay.
I have the same skills. So in the airline industry, the decisions are made. The pilot flies the aircraft, but the airline dispatcher is considered the pilot on the ground. They do the
Ooh.
flight planning. They do the flight planning. They check the maintenance on the aircraft. They check the weather. They check the NOTAMs, the en route obstructions, the takeoff airport, the landing airport. They plan the weight balance, how many passengers, if there's going to be bad weather. They plan the routes or whether they have to divert the fuel. So they basically have done everything for the pilot. But when the pilot comes, he look at the flight plan, and the airline dispatcher and the pilot has to agree on the flight plan. They they both they both require a FAA license.
Okay.
So if the pilot mess up, he could lose his license. If the dispatcher mess up, he could use his license.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a lot of responsibility there.
That's huge. And Mr. Larry, I think this definitely goes without saying, and I know our listeners are going to definitely agree, but I have no doubt of your level of intelligence, right? Like it's very apparent. But the most impressive part about this segment of this conversation is the fact that you were a dispatcher and all that goes into it. I was not aware. I mean, that's a very intricate job. So, and I'm excited about this part of it.
Well, and the reason I call the dispatcher the pilot on the ground,
Hmm.
you are responsible for those flights that are assigned to your desk from takeoff to landing. So
Oh,
if he has a issue in the air, all right, an emergency, let's say. So
okay,
I've planned the flight from A to B. I've checked the weather, I've checked this fuel, I've checked the maintenance on the airplane. Everything is fine, but things happen. So if he has a maintenance problem in flight, or 9 out of 10 times, it's not so much a maintenance issue. If you have a passenger issue,
okay,
let's say we have someone on board that has a medical emergency, and you need to land, get this person to the nearest hospital. Or if you have a unruly passenger
mm,
that's interrupting the duties of the flight attendants. So I will divert that airplane. So in order for me to divert him, uh, the difference with airplanes, I need to make sure that the runway is long enough. I need to
okay,
make sure that they have the facilities, that they can refuel. And you just can't send an airplane to any airport. I mean, they can land, but the restriction is with the weight. Is the runway long enough for them to land?
okay,
Is it going to be long enough for them to take off? Do you have facilities to take the passengers off? If it's an international flight, I have to send them to an airport of entry. If not, no one can get off the plane and or get back on it after they get off.
oh,
So you're the 911 call for the pilot once he take off.
wow. So when they're up in the air and you're having to divert a flight, are you guys like equipped with like are they like manuals like of different airports that are available? Like what are you looking at to be able to know how where to divert them to?
Well, all of the you carry charts
Okay.
for all of the airports in the plane, and now they've gone to uh, electronic data, so you don't have to have all the paper.
Okay.
But that dispatcher, the pilot is just flying the airplane. That
Mhm.
dispatcher has done everything for him. Hey, the runway is long enough. We got fuel. The authorities are standing by. We got an ambulance standing by. We got a terminal you can get to. Generally, you try to go to a terminal that you generally operate in and out of.
Okay.
So, like Delta, they may go to airports that you can get service for Delta jets. But if we can't, then the other airlines, American, United. So it's not a problem as long as it's a commercial airport.
Okay. Wow. That
And
seems
and
like
the,
this is setting off a panic.
the great thing about it is becoming an airline dispatcher is it does require a license. So
Mhm.
the course is generally 8 weeks.
Okay.
After you complete the course, you have to pass oral practical exam from
Mm.
a licensed FAA inspector. So
Okay.
once you get your license, now the challenge is how do I get on with the airlines? The two highest paid positions in the airline industry are the pilots and then the dispatchers. And the third one would be mechanics.
Okay.
So it's very challenging to get on with what we call a major. So I started out with a charter company,
Mm-hmm.
and from the charter company, then I moved over to a regional, which I was dispatching with Transmeridian, which we flew a lot of international flights. We flew for Apple Vacation, the same thing as the Delta United American Airlines. I was doing it, uh, but a little bit more challenging
Okay.
because we didn't own any facilities. So we would have to call out mechanics when we had an issue. Whereas with the majors, generally wherever they fly, they have mechanics there to check the airplanes when they come in.
Okay.
So from there, I went to Atlantic Southeast Airline, which later became ExpressJet. Delta bought us. So we were Delta regional carriers.
Okay.
And all major airlines have regional carriers because big airplanes don't just go to one spot. So you got to get the people in from the little airports like Killeen to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then those little airplanes fill up the big ones.
Oh, jeez.
So,
There's so much that just regular just civilians don't we don't see, don't know all these things.
and
Uh,
and for the passengers, uh, a lot of people don't pay attention to the flight attendant, but they should,
yeah.
because whenever you have an emergency, they're the ones telling you where to go. Uh, they tell you about the tracks on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, White light lead to green lights. That's your exit. And it was an eye opening for me as a dispatcher when I went through those classes. I'm going like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Uh, so
Wow. So did you have to experience any unruly diversions during
yes, I did.
supervision? Oh, okay. Uh-oh.
uh, uh, we flew from Atlanta to Jamaica.
Okay.
So I had a unruly passenger, and I diverted the flight into Miami and escorted the person off. Now the actually I take that back. We were coming out of Chicago going to Montego Bay,
Okay.
Jamaica. So the passenger was unruly. So I diverted him into Miami, put the guy off. Now you've paid for this round trip flight from Chicago to Jamaica, and now you've gotten put off in Miami. So now you've got to pay for another ticket to go from Miami to Jamaica.
Oh goodness.
And just so happened that I was working a week later, I was working the flight returning from Jamaica back to Chicago. The same crew was on there when I get a call from the flight attendant saying, "Hey, you remember the passenger that we diverted to Miami that gave us a hard time?" So, yes. Well, he's trying to get on the flight.
Oh, no.
So, no, they would not let him back on the flight. So now he had to pay his way from Jamaica back to Chicago.
Oh man.
And it
Ooh.
is a federal offense for you to interfere with the flight crew.
Ooh.
A lot of people don't know that,
Okay. I was not aware.
but you can go to jail.
Oh dear.
So
Well, hopefully that wasn't the outcome for that gentleman or that person.
no,
But
no, he just got put off the plane. Uh,
okay.
Other
Mm.
things that people don't take in consideration when flying, uh, if you are overly intoxicated,
Mhm.
they won't let you on.
See, and that's fair. I mean, because nobody, if you're, and depending on how long you're flying, right? If it's an hour, if
Yeah,
it's but longer than that, nobody wants even the passengers don't want to have to be surrounded by that because there's nowhere to
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, so I can definitely see that making a lot of sense.
Uh, Other things I've seen people put off the plane for is your child are undisciplined. They don't want to sit down to put the seatbelt on, and
Wow.
uh, so that's a requirement.
Yes, it is.
So so when they take the kid off, then mom and dad get to go off too.
Wow, I can imagine being the parent of that child, and now I'm off of a flight because of you, but that child is also their responsibility. So it's like, why not make sure they're doing what they should be doing?
Exactly. And as a parent, again, I go to the discipline thing.
Hmm.
I grew up in the act right era.
Yeah.
So, there wasn't much peer pressure when your mother and I were growing up,
Uh-huh.
because there were consequences. And we grew up in a nonverbal environment, where your parents didn't have to say much. They just give you the stare. They looked over to let you know that I see you. And if they stared at you, that means you've already crossed the line. So,
Uh-oh.
you know,
I love that. I love it.
but when you have to be a parent first, and
Hmm.
I'm not there to be your best friend.
No,
I'm there to give you the tools that you need to survive. So I've got to make sure that the foundation under your feet is solid. And the
absolutely.
first thing that it starts out with is the discipline thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's that is a necessity. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. That's something that we need and still do, you know? And it's like you can't be upset with your parent for disciplining you. You may feel like you want to be upset, but no. It's it
You'll understand later when as you grow older,
Yes, sir.
but
Yes,
it's
sir.
all a part of growth.
It is. I really love that you was that phrase coined back when you were growing up, or is that something that you came up with the act right era? I love
That's something I came up with.
I love that.
We generally say we grew up in the WA era, and that's the
Uh-oh.
whoop. You know what?
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh my
and
goodness.
everybody in the neighborhood, when they say it takes a village to raise a child,
Yes.
everyone in the neighborhood had permission to discipline you. But now, if you say something to a person's child,
Mhm.
they get offended.
Mhm.
That's my child, but I can remember getting ready to misbehave, and they would say, "Aren't you Viola's son?" And I was like, "Oh, they know my mom."
Oh no.
and,
You're like, let me
and
fix this real quick.
yes, yes. So I knew there were consequences for my actions.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's something that I wish. I know it is only a dream at this point, but that would be so nice to see us getting back to that. It's so nice.
we've created so many rules that even the kids, I call the police on you when uh, if you discipline me, and so that makes it challenging.
Yes.
True story. I was in court one time,
Mhm.
and this father had been arrested for disciplining his child. So when they called his name, he just came in to the judge. He said, "Where do I sign?" And the
Oh.
judge said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you got me in here because I beat my child's behind. So where do I sign him over to you?" I said, "Well, what are you talking about, sir?" He said, "Well, he lied, he stole, he disrespected the teacher, and I gave him some discipline. But you brought me to jail for doing that. So what do I sign him over to you? Because obviously he can't do those things and live in my house.
Mhm.
So are you the next step for him is to go to jail because you don't want me to discipline him now. So what do I sign him over to you?" And the judge says, uh, "District attorney, is what he's saying correct?" He said, "Sir, he took a belt off to the child and he beat him. And his reason, he did say that, he stole, he disrespected the teacher, and the whole 9 yards." Just said, "We don't have a problem." Bam, case dismissed.
Oh.
And, and he said, uh, if I don't do it now, then you're just waiting later on for him down the road to go to jail and this is going to escalate because can
Yes.
nobody tell him anything.
Mm.
Uh, and
Goodness.
the teachers tolerate you in school. However, when you go to college, the college professors are not going to tolerate you if you don't do
No.
what you're supposed to. They
No.
don't care. You're just a number.
Mm-hmm.
So when
And
you
you're
get into
paying.
work,
Jeez.
when you get in the workforce, people not going. If you don't want to be a team player or do what they say do, then you go work somewhere else. So unless you're going to run your own business,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to survive it. Even running your own business, you still have to answer to your customers.
You do. Yep. Absolutely. If you want to stay in business, anyways.
So life is about accountability, no matter how you look at it.
Wow. Good for that dad. Good for him.
So
Jeez. We need more like him. All right, Mr. Larry. So we are talking about you and your extensive career in the military as a pilot in multiple aspects. And the one question that I did want to ask you is, how did you feel once you actually achieved the status of a pilot?
uh, it was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I look forward to, as pilots, all you want to do is fly. But the reality of it is you have other jobs besides flying.
Okay.
You have, especially as officers, you have administrative positions. I was a life support. My other job, other than being an instructor pilot, I had a alternate job as life support officer. I've had jobs as the operation officer as well. So as the operation officer, uh, I'm responsible for not only giving the evaluation rides. I'm responsible for, and not just for the pilots, but for the our crew chiefs, which are the enlisted mechanics.
Okay.
You are responsible for maintaining the records. So when the Department of the Army come down, they inspect your records to make sure that everyone has been given an evaluation. Pilots have to take an evaluation uh, once a year. The commercial guys take one every 6 months
Mm.
to make sure that you are fit to operate the aircraft.
Okay.
So you have to take a physical. Uh, you have to make sure that everyone has had a physical, everyone has had an annual evaluation. There's certain amount of training that they have to go through. Those Everything has to be in order. And as the operations guy, you're responsible for maintaining all those records and making sure that everyone has checked the box
Okay.
that they were supposed to check.
Okay. Wow. Have you ever come across anybody who was not physically fit or able to maintain their license?
I have failed quite a few people on evaluation rides.
Mm.
In in instructor pilot business, you are an instructor pilot, and then you have you go a step further. You are a standardization instructor pilot. Those are the pilots, the instructor pilots that give evaluations to other instructor pilots.
Okay.
And I have failed uh, instructor pilots, just not doing what they're supposed to do to be prepared to take an evaluation. So I took the job very seriously because the last thing I look at it as I am the safety net to stop you from going out and hurting yourself or killing yourself, killing the passengers that you carry, or killing the people that flies with you.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's a tough job. I mean, because if any of those pilots has as much passion as you have and had about flying, I know that wasn't easy for them to be able to take that.
and it's things that evaluation ride is not that difficult. It's things that you do every day. Uh,
Mm.
my pet peeve, uh, things that I would not pass you on if you did not know limitations or if you did not know emergency procedures. Uh, that was just a no-go for me because those are the detrimental things that you need to know.
Yes.
So, and the let's be fair, you don't just get to be a pilot, but that's extra income for your pilots get paid more than other officers in the military. For the Army, after 7.5 years, that's an extra $850 a month flight pay.
Oh.
So it's
Wow.
considered hazardous duty. Uh, the same as paratroopers, they get paid a little extra.
Okay.
It's one of those hazardous duty things. Uh, divers, uh, explosive guys, so that's all considered hazardous duty. So they give you extra pay. It's not included in your retirement, but
Oh, that would be nice.
yeah. So
Wow. Wow. So do you think that what do you know about like the longevity of a pilot? Like do they have a cutoff?
yes, they do.
Okay.
So the age limit used to be 60 for commercial pilots.
Mhm.
Okay, if you're not a commercial guy, then you can fly as long as you can pass uh, flight evaluation. But
Okay.
flying commercially, the cutoff is uh, is now 65, but you can't have two 65-year-olds flying together.
No. No.
So you can have 160 and then you can have 165. And the 65-year-old, I don't think they can be the captain.
Okay.
So basically, you have the captain and then you have a first officer. So after age 60, they can be a first officer.
Okay.
Unless they are a test pilot, which then you're not carrying passengers, so then you can still be the captain in charge.
Now what does that entail?
The captain is responsible for everybody and everything in the airplane. So uh, he gets with the dispatcher. Like I said, the dispatcher and the captain have to agree on
Mhm.
the all of the flight stuff, but he's also responsible for the crew.
Mhm.
He's responsible for all of the passengers, even though he's not working. So whenever there's a decision to be made, whether someone is put off, not let on, or how many can get on, it's left up to the discretion of the captain because that's his responsibility.
Okay. Wow. Jeez. And I'm reminded too of when you were when you were in the military and you working commercially, and so you're seeing different things, and I know you've seen so many changes in the way the airlines operate, and especially after 9/11, and I wonder like how did that affect like you or your job after that point?
Oh, aviation changed drastically after
Mm-hmm.
9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you used to could just go straight up to the gate. Uh, when passengers came in, there was no restriction to stop you from uh, going to the gate. And
Mm-hmm.
then after 9/11, they started going through the security check. Uh, so security obviously increased tremendously because that's how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
What you could carry on and what you couldn't carry on. If you're over your 3 ounces, you can't carry water because all of those things you could carry hazardous material or explosives to get on the airplane to bring it down. So the security aspects was the big difference that changed. But as
Mm-hmm.
far as the requirements for flight crews and everything, that's still been the same. We have made some changes to that. And like I said, the age thing was one because before at age 60, that was the cutoff. And then they increased it to age 65. Uh, Another thing that changed was the amount of crew rest that crews receive.
Okay.
Under the old system, it was 8 hours from the time a plane came into the gate and shut down and opened the doors. Your crew rest time started then.
Mm.
So it may take you an hour and a half to get to the hotel, but they were only required to give you 8 hours of rest. So your 8 hours started from the time that door opened, regardless of what time you got to the hotel. And to be back at the airport, then so the new rules changed to where everybody gets 10 hours,
Okay.
and that 10 hours start from the time you get to the hotel.
Oh well, yeah. That's that's way better because if it's taking you an hour to get to the hotel, and then it's gonna take you an hour to get back to the airport. I mean, you've lost a lot of time to rest.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's why if you go to the airport and the flight is delayed due to late crew,
Okay.
uh, it all depends. When it's a sunny day, everything is great. Everything moves like it's supposed to move. But when the storms come through and you have to divert because of weather, a lot of time during a regular sunny day, airplanes can be separated uh, 2 miles, 3 miles apart.
Okay.
When the weather is bad, they separate them by 6 miles apart because you can't see, and everyone is shooting a full, what we consider a full instrument approach. But when I can see the runway of the airport 10 miles ahead of me, I can see the airplane. So, it's just land, 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 land. But now everything is based on timing. And the more, when I go from 3 miles to 6 miles, then I'm spacing aircraft out further and further. So that line backs all the way up. So that takes us into what we call a ground delay.
Okay.
Somebody has to hold until the airspace clears. And so you can only put so many planes in a holding pattern. So we hold you on the ground to stop you from burning fuel or having to divert you because now you don't have the fuel to hold anymore. So those are the things that the dispatcher plans for. Uh, you are giving a takeoff time. So if you ever been sitting out at the airport and what are we waiting on? That's what they're
Mm-hmm.
waiting on to space you out, especially on a bad weather day.
Mm. So that's kind of comforting because I know the times that I've experienced that I'm like, what is there some sort of mechanical issue with this plane? Because they don't give you a lot of details. They just say that we're you
Yeah,
know we're experiencing some sort of delay, but they don't say why. So then the passengers become restless, and then of course everybody's minds are racing.
yeah,
But yeah, that's this is what you're saying is totally I can
yes.
understand it.
So that they give you a slot time.
Okay.
So and you have to make that slot time and ready to go. If you miss it, then you go back to the bottom of the line. And If you keep delaying it, then what happens is your crew could time out.
Ooh.
So you may be in line and have to go back to the gate, and they say, "Well, the crew has timed out."
Oh wow. So then
So
what happens then? Like the crew leaves and we have to wait for a new crew to come on?
we have to wait for a new crew if you can get a new crew.
Oh.
So if you have to go back to the gate and the crew has timed out, uh, then that flight is canceled due to no crew. So
Wow.
here's another secret about the airline. Uh, if the flight is delayed or canceled due to weather, the airline don't have to do anything for you. They don't have
Okay.
to give you a hotel. So you're basically on your own. It's considered an act of God. However, if the flight is canceled due to maintenance or due to lack of crew, then they are required to put you up for
Okay.
tonight.
Jeez.
Yes.
Or like you're on your own. You've already paid for this flight. Now you get to go pay for your hotel, and then however other many family members you've got, you got to pay for their food and a way back from the hotel. It's awesome.
If you can get to a hotel,
Oh my goodness.
Atlanta is the business airport, uh, considered the business airport in the world because it's a major hub. So
Okay.
when we start canceling flights for thunderstorms in the Atlanta area, those hotels fill up, and it don't take long. Airplane carrying 300 or 400 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Jeez. It's so many little details we're so clueless about, and I'm so glad that you were able to share all of these things. What do you do? So okay, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of rambling on. If you have to get off, that's fine. I don't mind. But when the cargo crew when they're loading up the planes
hmm
and it's such a tight space at the nose of the underbelly, I guess you'd call it. But it, do they also put bodies under there?
yes, they do.
Oh gosh, I knew it. Ah.
Well, I mean, when you have a deceased member and they're sending them home,
Okay.
they go in the cargo well.
Wow. Are they in like a casket or is it a body
Yes,
bag?
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Well, they're
good.
they're in a casket, and sometimes they will uh, transport them in a uh, secure, like wooden box with hard car, uh, hard uh, cardboard.
Okay.
So, yes,
Wow. I I can't tell you how long I've been wanting to ask that question to anybody who could answer that for me.
yes, they go
Wow.
in the cargo well because they're basically cargo.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess at the very end of the day, that's what we are, huh? My goodness. Mm-mm-mm.
Uh,
Well,
the uh, the probably the most unusual thing that I've seen, if you're in flight and a passenger has deceased,
mm-hmm.
uh, they'll just put a blanket over them. There's nothing you can do.
What? On the
Uh, un,
in the
uh,
seat? Oh my gosh. Wow. Jeez.
blanket over them. They don't try to move them anything.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess there's really not much you could do in that
No,
circumstance. And like so that wouldn't even that's not even that doesn't even warrant like a diversion. Like, obviously you just said that, but that I don't know how I
I
feel about that.
well, I mean, realistically, if the person is having a medical issue,
Okay.
then you would divert them. But it happens. Uh,
Mm.
some people die in flight.
Yeah, that's a reality. I just wonder what the passengers on a plane, because it doesn't take long for things to spread, right? And then so if one person finds out about it, let's say like the person that's sitting next to that deceased passenger, and that passenger may be uncomfortable with sitting next to somebody who's deceased. I probably would be too. But it's just
Yeah.
like, how do you contain yourself? And are you allowed to ask to be moved?
If there's room, if you're on a full flight, then
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
it's not like they're bothering you or anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Wow. I mean, it's sad, and I don't want to make light of that because their person
Yeah.
obviously couldn't help that. But it's just I think it's something that we kind of all maybe know inside that it is a possibility, but just not having experienced it is just it's kind of really sending my curiosity somewhere else, and I don't know. Not so sure, but that's very sad. Very, very sad. Mr.
Yeah.
Larry, so can you tell me if there's anything about this experience throughout your life in the military and piloting? Is there anything you do different? Anything you'd consider changing?
Uh, Look, I grew up from I'm from Quincy, Florida, which the
Mm-hmm.
county that I live in is an agriculture county. So uh, people in my generation, most of us have worked in tobacco fields
Mm-hmm.
at some point. So those tobacco fields were motivators. And I'm going to go ahead and say that probably 75% of the guys in my graduating class went to the military.
Mm.
The military recruiter did not have a problem making his quota out of Gaston County. It was just the lack of opportunities. And for me, my life is so much, I am so grateful to the military. It just gave me so much, a broader horizon
Mm-hmm.
than had I not went. I got exposed to things, uh, going to different countries, and I have friends that's never been on an airplane. I
Wow.
can't even imagine.
No. No.
But so I'm very grateful in the opportunity that I had to fly and do things. My friends ask me about it all the time, and they're just in a lot of curiosities. Well, like, well, how do you see when the weather is bad?
Mm-hmm.
It just like they have highways for you to drive on, we have airways that are electronic, and the instruments in the airplane uh, keep you spaced.
Wow. Jeez. I wonder what person designed that. I mean, I'm sure it's probably multiple people, but with the Wright brothers, being the first to design, well, what they called a airplane. It's like like there's no way they thought that far ahead about air traffic or like air
Oh,
highways.
yes, and the satellites and the navigation systems on the ground, uh, the same thing correlate to the GPS, the Google Maps.
Okay.
It's all operated off of it, and to get you going where you're going. I don't even. All of my vehicles have GPS in them. I don't even use it anymore. I use Google Maps because Google Maps will put you right at the door. And we have the same thing in the airplanes. Uh,
Okay. This episode has been brought to you by Google Maps.
well, when I say that, it's not Google Maps in the airplane, but the satellite imagery will put you
Oh,
on the lat long position.
gee
And we
whiz.
we use that even in our weaponry system when we fire our ammo. We can shoot off a missile. It's using that same satellite coordinates to put it on spot.
Okay.
So,
Man, how secure do you feel like that is for us? Being in America and using such technology like that. Like, would it be safe? Well, I don't know. I have to know your opinion of it. But like, how secure do you think that is with anybody being able to access like our information?
oh well, you can only access certain information that will allow certain satellites are used by everybody in the world, but then there are certain satellites that are not. You don't have
Okay.
access to them, so that's where you come with your encryption,
Okay.
and
Okay.
you even have that on your phones.
Yeah, that's
As a
true.
matter of fact, you use encryption in there.
Wow. You're
So,
such an intelligent guy. You truly multifaceted man. That is so. I really enjoyed talking to you. I mean, I've learned a lot. You didn't mind talking and listen. Let me ask the most random questions, but I definitely appreciate you taking the time out to do that.
well, life is a learning experience. It's the only course that you'll never finish as long as you live.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the old saying is you're supposed to learn one new thing every day of your life.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and some people, I have one friend that as a matter of fact, he's my first cousin, and he said that I'm not taking any more courses. I'm not reading another book to do this. And I'm going like, wow. So
Mm.
life is just going to keep on going, and you're going to be left right where you are because
Yep.
of the fact that you don't want to learn.
Yes. I couldn't imagine having that type of mindset. Because even as I'm sure that even you, as somebody who's retired, I'm sure you've got a lot of things going on, and I'm pretty sure you're probably still continuing in your own education in some way.
And not only that, when you deal with your kids or your grandkids,
Yeah.
just listening to them, so here's a joke I use when remember when the pandemic hit,
Uh-huh.
all the parents told the teachers, "I have your job." Well, the teachers are saying, "Well, how's that working out for you?" When they couldn't do the new math, and then they had the TikTok videos where the guy goes, "I apologize, I didn't mean it. Please come back. I can't do this math."
Yeah. They definitely put their foot in their mouth with that.
Yeah. So,
That's
but
funny.
life is just that way, and it's gonna be whatever you make it.
Yes,
And my
sir.
thing is every day you wake up, it's a fresh start. You got a new opportunity to be better than you were yesterday.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So,
So true. So correct. But again, I'm glad you took the time to talk to me and to tell me your story. I definitely appreciate it, and I would love to have you back anytime. Like if you want to come back, it's up to you. But I
okay.
definitely love to have you back on. Maybe you can tell me some stories about my mom.
Well,
Oh
they
man.
always thought that we were sisters and brothers because we had the same lens. So we just stopped telling them that we wasn't, you know.
Right.
So,
That's so
yeah.
funny. That's so funny.
So,
Mr. Larry, is there
yeah.
any other piece of information, any advice you'd like to give to the audience before we head out?
No, I'm just impressed with what you're doing, and just keep doing what you're doing and sharing your knowledge with your listeners.
Oh wow, I appreciate that. Hey, this is about you, sir. Okay.
So,
I appreciate that so much. So much. Hey guys, this has been the Blind Impact. Today's guest is Mr. Larry Ford. And if you also have a story you'd like to share, please email me at theblindimpact@gmail.com. And you may also leave a voice message. That information is in the show notes. So we'll talk to you or see you soon. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
all right, you have an awesome day.
I will. I am going to now for sure. You too.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, take care. All right,
You too.
bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The Blind Impact. If you like the show, please rate, subscribe, review, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have a story you'd like to tell, please email me at theblindimpact@gmail.com. Or if you have a story you'd like to have read here by me, please include those details in the email or the voice message. Thank y'all, and remember, it's not always tragic.